Hello there and welcome back to GrandOldTeam. This is a new feature. It's called Behind Enemy Lines. It sounds a little bit more serious than it actually is. I'm joined for the first one by Aidan Small from Fresh Saints. Aidan, thanks for coming on to GrandOldTeam TV, mate.
Not a problem. It's brilliant to be here.
Cool. Well, so thank you for coming on. I know it's a Friday night and you've given up that for me, so I appreciate it, mate. Let's just start off with that defeat in the week for Southampton. Yeah. Obviously, you lost to Sparta Prague 1-0. I'm intrigued to know how you feel that Southampton have reacted and of how they've found life in the Europa League, and then how they've reacted to the games that have come in quick succession after that one on the Thursday night.
Well, typically we've been quite good off the back of the Europa games. We've had a few interesting results here and there. The one the other night, however, I'm very worried about. The game against Sparta Prague, dreadful. In all honesty, fans have said it was possibly definitely our worst performance under Puel. Many would say the worst in the past year. I think it was in competition with the Midtjylland game last year when Koeman was in charge. That was also a dreadful game for us. Really lack of identity, and that's a really worrying thing going into this weekend, especially as we know it'll be a big test. Generally, we've normally kept to our play style very well in what Puel wants from the side, but I'm very worried. I've got a little bit of worry for this weekend after the showing last night.
What you mentioned the style there, Aid. What is Southampton's style? How would you describe that to Evertonians who may not know?
Yeah, it's a very possession-based style, very patient, and it's been beautiful to watch at times. I've been saying as well that it's given us some of our best football we've seen in recent years, and that's quite an achievement with Pochettino and Koeman at the club. And yeah, it's a very slow build-up. Waiting for that right moment so that we can cut through the midfield and the defence. And when working, well, it's absolutely beautiful to watch. On other days, it can be very slow, as we saw last night.
So this new manager then, how have you guys taken to him as the club accepted him then? Are the fans, pretty happy with what he's doing so far?
The fans are very worried after last night. It's been a real big slap for Southampton fans. You know how it can take over social media in a day, and that's been the talk recently. We've seen some great performances, and the whole 4-4-2 diamond's been well documented. The defence midfielder, two central midfielders, and an attacking midfielder. The way we line up is very narrow. We've seen some great performances, but as said, some worrying ones like last night. And it's all about how we kick on. Puel's got a really big test, and lots of fans will be looking to this weekend at how much they've judged Puel so far this season. I feel like they're ganging up on him maybe a little bit too quick, especially as such a drastic change requires time. But there's certainly some worried fans about the future of the club at the minute, despite that being the only really bad result in recent times. I mean, a brilliant result against Liverpool last week. Fans seem to have discarded that, but that's the way it works in modern day football, I think, sometimes.
It is. We've all got short memories, yeah. I think, mate.
Yeah.
So just, we're probably we're gonna have to talk about this. Ronald Koeman then. So you said this is a big match then this weekend. How do Southampton fans see Koeman now? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how pissed off are you at him still?
At the start, very pissed off. But as a Southampton fan, I've grown quite used to seeing our prized assets leave, in all honesty. Someone I've grown to accept. Many fans hate him. There's a lot of comments here and there, a lot of little digs, but I mean, it's as football fans do, isn't it? Little comments here. A lot of Saints fans, I've got to say, do enjoy an Everton loss. But that's just the way it goes in football, isn't it? I personally I really like Ronald Koeman as a player. I absolutely adored him.
Yeah.
I'm a big admirer of the Dutch football, so I find it hard because I also loved watching Koeman play. I loved knowing about him, having him at our club, and it's a shame the way that it ended the way it did, but it's football. It's the way it happens. Money comes into things, situations get awkward. It's a shame that it had to end like it did as well, because we had a great run with Koeman.
Yeah, I mean, he got you to the Europa League as well. So I'm intrigued to know, as a Saints fan, Aid, how this relates to when Pochettino went. So it sounds like there's a level of anger towards Koeman, which I understand. I do understand it. I mean, as Evertonians, we've lost people who we consider to be our prized assets over recent years. And so, what's the difference between Pochettino? Do Saints fans view him in the same way? Are they just as angry at him as they were at Koeman, or were the circumstances a bit different?
I think the circumstances were different because Pochettino never was vocal about his admiration for the club. He kind of came in, got his job done, and swiftly left. He never. I guess we were annoyed at the time because things were going so well, but at the end of the day, you look back and he never misled fans. He never told fans this or that. And Koeman on numerous occasions reiterated how he even laughed at press guys, press officers, journalists, the like, at how they were suggesting he might leave in the summer. I remember him sat there getting annoyed because he's got, what's with all these questions? I'm not leaving. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, and he's out the door. So that was, I feel, the lies and the fact that he never had to say that. It's just brutal honesty. If he knew an offer came in that would have tempted him, it's fine, he can say that, but just the honesty would have been nice to deal with over the summer. It makes it very, very sour situation to deal with.
Mm. And do you kind of understand his decision, though? I mean, obviously, to a certain extent, this sounds like the cash... Well, we're led to believe for Fahad Nashiri does have a bit of cash to spend. I mean, we haven't seen it materialise yet, but that may be down to other reasons, and that's for another video with Evertonians. But do you understand his reasoning? So, I mean... Look, in the grand scale of things, I'm going to say this. I'm an Evertonian. And many other Evertonians still kind of hear the stories from our dads in the 80s. How fantastic we were. You know, I think it's probably fair to say Everton are a bigger club in general than Southampton, depending on how you... Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? You know, people define the size of a club on
different
many
ways.
different things.
Yeah, there's no one definition.
Of course, and many people will say, well, Everton haven't won anything for a while, and they would be right. However, do you think that, do you kind of see why Koeman would take that move?
Yeah, I feel like lots of people can get their emotions too tied up into things like this, especially that at the end of the day, we're forgetting that he's a Dutchman who's tasted the biggest success in the world. And as much as I would have loved to have kept him, he's tasted European stages. He's tasted everything as a player. And at the end of the day, he's a Dutch guy coming to Southampton down in the corner of England. I mean, what emotional tie has he got to the club? I can kind of understand it. You've got to take a step away sometimes from such situations and understand that that's just the way it is in football, I feel.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because when we signed him, I remember seeing somebody saying, well, you know, if this is the way, this was an Evertonian on Twitter, said, well, if this is the way that he treated Southampton, then we can expect the same in a few years, you know. What about if he just gets off in 2 years and goes to Arsenal? And the way I view that is actually in a different way, and I think if within 2 years Ronald Koeman is, say, being linked with the Arsenal job after Wenger goes to Barcelona, he's done a fantastic job. And to be honest, I think they mentioned Barcelona. I was thinking, well, if he gets linked to the Barcelona job and there's a realistic chance of him getting that job, then what on earth has he done at Everton? You know, has he won us a trophy? Has he managed to make it break the top four? So as you say, mate, I think it depends on the way that you look at it. Moving on then, mate, from Koeman then, because I feel that was pretty civil, mate. I'm pretty happy with that.
I'd say we dealt with that well as Southampton and Everton fans, very well.
We did, see, you know what I mean? It's all peace and love, mate. So tell us about who, as Evertonians, we should be fearful within the Southampton ranks. Who can cause us the most damage on Sunday?
I feel like Romeo in recent weeks has been one of our strongest players just because he, despite obviously playing so deep in the pitch, he wins them tackles, them vital tackles, makes them all-important interceptions and starts the counter-attacks. And I feel like that might be, I know the way that Everton can flood forward with their attacks sometimes. I feel like a Romeo win in the middle of the park into a switch wide would be very interesting to see. I feel like he'll be a danger man. At the moment, minus goals department, Charlie Austin's the obvious example. I mean, you give him a chance and you can pretty much bank on him, score on him. He's a very good player in front of goal. But minus that, our attacking threat hasn't been too dangerous at the minute.
I wish we'd have signed Charlie Austin, to be fair. Everton were linked with him last year, and he'd have been perfect for us. And it's no surprise to me that he's gone there and he's done well. So yeah, he's one to consider. What do you reckon then, Aid? Let's get a score prediction from you. Do you think that you can beat Everton?
I think we could beat Everton. Yeah, I think Dusan Tadic is out for us, which is a big blow.
I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that.
With all things considered, I feel a 2-2. I feel like it's not going to be settled. The Koeman derby won't be settled just yet. I think we'll need to go to the other tie to get it solved.
Yeah, I don't want to have to remind you of what happened when Everton rocked up at St Mary's the start of last season. That was a comfortable win. However, mate, look, it didn't exactly go well from us from there on in, mate.
No, it did not, did it?
The guy who was running things at that time, he didn't hang around. thankfully. Let's finish off with the one question then that I'm gonna finish off at every one of these behind enemy lines videos with. If there was one Everton player from the current playing staff at Everton Football Club, which one would you like to take if money was no object and you could get them?
Okay, well, I feel like I would go Lukaku. It seems like the obvious answer because of his guaranteed goals. The man is guaranteed goals. You start him in a season, you're guaranteed 15 Premier League goals plus. But for Saints, in the current moment, I'll go Seamus Coleman. I think he's a fantastic defender, arguably by many the best right back in the league. And it's Southampton. It's a spot that we haven't tied down just yet. Cedric could mould into that role, but knowing that if we could get a Seamus Coleman into the side, I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, do you know, it's funny you should say that. That did surprise me, to be fair, mate. I thought you were going to stick with Lukaku.
No.
Believe it or not, Coleman gets a bit of stick from Evertonians, and sometimes, you know, especially, I think over the last few seasons, some of his performances have been below par, but I think it's, you know, it's pretty clear and obvious that there's a lot of talent there. So, yeah, you did surprise me on that one, but when I think about it a little bit more, it makes sense. So, listen, Aid, thanks for coming on to Grand Old Team TV. I would wish you luck for Sunday, but obviously I won't. I hope we smash you up. And,
nice, mate.
Well, mate, appreciate you coming on. We'll do it again when you come to Goodison.
Brilliant.